Yeah, and that's another point I was going to make, which, I mean, the people like calling for the left, which I'll talk about in a second, because I even, this whole idea of like the left needs to be interrogated, but like calling for the left to like ally with Trumpists is extremely stupid on so many levels. But also, if your enemies are fighting, let your enemies fight. Don't interrupt the fight between your enemies. How many historical times can we learn that lesson? But even aside from that, I think there's two different issues we have to divide here. One is the issue of the case against Trump. And as all of us, as we don't need to, I don't think we need to display to the audience, we're all extremely against the FBI, the US police state. We spent so much time opposing it. There are legitimate concerns about what Trump has been doing. Trump has seen himself as above the law for many decades, but especially since he became president. This guy, he's l'État c'est moi, I'm the state. That's how he governed. Mm-hmm. And he does see himself as above the law. Hillary Clinton, similarly. And, if it was justified to investigate Hillary Clinton for her very clear illegal mishandling of classified documents, then I think Trump doubly so. Okay, so that's a separate issue. Then there's the issue of the political question. If the so-called left, which I'll talk about what that means in a second, should ally with literal fascists because they claim right now, this week, this minute, they claim to be against the FBI. Obviously, we know that's not genuine. That's ridiculous. We have to talk about what the left is meant by this. So, first of all, when we say the left, there's a laziness when people say the left that I really dislike. When people say the left, they often, and then you say, what do you mean? And they talk about like YouTubers. Yeah. Like, no, that's not the left. What's the left? It's like Jimmy Dore. It's like, no, where is Jimmy Dore's like political party?
Yeah.
Like where? No, I mean, the left, it consists of organization. I mean, if you believe in actual left-wing politics, you have to believe that collective action needs to be taken through organizational power. So we're talking about organizations, DSA, PSL, Workers' World, Frizzo, other progressive organizations. Like, that's the left. It's not a bunch of like weirdos with a YouTube channel, like these so-called patriotic socialists.
It's not us either, by the way. Like, we're leftists. We are not the left.
Yeah, like this guy, and then this gets to this whole nonsense of like these patriotic socialists who have a lot in common with the National Socialists, I'll say, and how little socialist they are and how much patriotic and nationalist they are. But I mean, these people are, first of all, complete fringe. They have no influence outside of like social media. And I say this as someone who is a journalist, but like I don't claim to be a political leader. I don't claim to like have a movement of people behind me. Like these so-called patriotic socialists who always bend over backward to do lesser evilism in defense of Republicans. What is the point of that? Like all they're doing is they're inverting the old political problem of the social democrats who claim to be socialists but always bend over backward to defend the Democrats as the lesser evil. They're doing the same thing but saying Republicans are the lesser evil. And they're calling for allying with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is one of the most explicitly fascist politicians in the U.S. right now. Let's not forget, this is someone who honored and admires J. Edgar Hoover, the founder of the FBI, a complete McCarthyite and racist who oversaw COINTELPRO, assassination of black revolutionaries like Fred Hampton, oversaw, the surveillance and spying on of MLK. I mean, she was praising the FBI when it was cracking down under Trump on Black Lives Matter protests.
Right.
She called Black Lives Matter the biggest threat to the United States. This was a little over a year ago. She and all these Trump Republicans were encouraging the police to brutalize protesters. And now they're calling they're not going to actually abolish the FBI. What is their tangible action plan for abolishing the FBI? First of all, they don't even have the votes if they wanted to, which they clearly don't want to. What's much more likely is they take power, the Republicans take power again, and they strengthen the FBI. I mean, this is a ridiculous...
She actually said that. She actually has said that, by the way, that it's just that Republicans need to take back power. Yeah. So that they can like make it not a political weapon anymore. Yeah.
So this is a complex political debate that goes back many decades, right? It goes back hundreds of years about when you should form political short-term alliances with your enemies, with far right, right-wing libertarian people, right? So here's another example of this would be like the anti-war movement. Like, I think libertarians on economic issues are really dumb. I think their economic worldview is insane. It's like they live on another planet. But there are a lot of short-term coalitions between the left and libertarians against war, against the war in Yemen, the war in Libya. That makes sense because
Syria, actually. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to cut you off too much, but when I was at when I still had Jane Hampshire at Fire Dog Lake, we actually whipped the House and stopped them from passing a resolution in support of the Syrian conflict that would have given Obama what he wanted to escalate. I mean, there was U.S. involvement, but he wanted far more.
Yeah, well, that's an example of a clear, concrete political action based on votes. And the left doesn't have a party in Congress. It has no. It is a progressive caucus, but
if Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to put forth a bill in Congress to abolish the FBI, I will 100% support that specific policy goal, and will do whatever I can to help get it passed.
Yep. Yeah, but again, but getting back to the issue of like libertarians and like the left. So in that context, it makes sense because one, libertarians, despite my many disagreements with them on other issues, they have shown a consistency over many decades of opposition to war. Okay, this isn't something that has started a week ago and is going to end in 8 days.
Right.
The fake right-wing opposition to the FBI. They've showed consistency over a long period of time, which means that if you form a short-term alliance with them, you're not going to get burnt because you know they've shown consistency on that issue. Furthermore, there's another major issue of this, which is that Marjorie Taylor Greene has made it very clear that her main enemy is the left. She campaigned on a slogan saying "End Socialism." She did campaign videos shooting the word socialism with a machine gun. So if you form the other part of this is that if you form a temporary political coalition with someone, you do it with someone who is a lesser enemy, not a bigger enemy, right? Like libertarians, I think they're dumb on a lot of issues, but I don't think they're as bad as fascists.
Yeah.
Fascists are the #1 enemy. And obviously I don't like liberals either, but if I have to choose between liberals and fascists, I'll choose the liberals. You don't ally with the people who are even worse enemies. That's not how political coalitions work. So the idea of the left allying with the far right against the center is extremely stupid. And by the way, the left has very little power. The far right in the U.S. has a lot of power. So if you form a coalition with someone and then your coalition wins, they will turn against you and you have no power. So the far right's going to win.
It's like